When the French heroin connection was shut down in the early 1970s, Mexico took its place as an import source of American heroin. Mexican marijuana production also boomed in the early 1970s as well and was later a major component of the Guadalajara Cartel's production and trafficking. At this point, Mexico was not yet a major transshipment point for cocaine, which was mainly produced in the Andean countries such as Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia, but all of that was about to change. In the 1980s, the global drug trade exploded with cocaine from Colombia. The Guadalajara Cartel was founded in 1980 by Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, Rafael Caro Quintero, and Ernesto Fonseca Carrillo, and was one of the first major Mexican cartels to work with Colombians to ship cocaine and marijuana into the United States. The cartel prospered in the 1980s and controlled much of the trafficking in Mexico and the corridors along the U.S.-Mexico border. That is, until DEA agent Agent Kiki Camarena came into the picture. Kiki Camarena was a former U.S. Marine turned DEA special agent, and in 1980 he was assigned to the administration's residency in Guadalajara. Working through informants, Camarena discovered the cartel marijuana plantations in Zacatecas state. The plantations were raided and destroyed. In 1984, Mexican soldiers, backed by helicopters, destroyed an even larger 2,500-acre marijuana plantation known as Rancho Buffalo in Chihuahua, known to be the main production of DFS intelligence agents as part of Operation Godfather. Thousands of farmers worked in the fields at Rancho Buffalo, and the annual production was later valued at $8 billion for the Guadalajara Cartel. Camarena was beginning to expose the connections among drug traffickers, Mexican law enforcement, and high-ranking government officials within the political PRI party, which Felix Gallardo considered to be a major threat to the Guadalajara Cartel's operations throughout Mexico. In response, Gallardo ordered the kidnapping of Camarena. On February 7, 1985, Jalisco police officers on the cartel's payroll kidnapped Camarena as he left the U.S. consulate in Guadalajara. His helicopter pilot, Alfredo Zavala Averla, was also kidnapped shortly afterward. Following his abduction by the Guadalajara Cartel, Camarena was tortured over a 30-hour period and then murdered. His skull was punctured by a piece of rebar and his ribs were completely broken. Camarena's body was found wrapped in plastic in a rural area outside of the small town of La Agostuna in the state of Michoacán on March 5, 1985. Camarena's torture and murder prompted a swift reaction from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, and therefore the DEA launched Operation Leyenda, which was the largest DEA homicide investigation ever undertaken. The initiation of Operation Leyenda led to members of the Mexican government and police being implicated in the investigations, and the Guadalajara Cartel was identified as being responsible for the murder. DEA investigators soon identified Miguel Ángel Felix Gallardo and his two closest associates as the primary suspects in the kidnapping. Under pressure from the U.S. government, Mexican President Miguel de la Madrid quickly apprehended Carrillo and Quintero, but Felix Gallardo still enjoyed political protection. Gallardo was known as El Jefe de Jefes, the boss of bosses, and El Padrino, the godfather, for his drug empire in Mexico and, of course, for his vast political connections to keep him protected. The results of Operation Leyenda were quite successful despite the long hours of constant work on foreign soil by DEA. Many cartel members and corrupt officials were arrested. However, Felix Gallardo kept a low profile and moved with his family to Guadalajara in 1987, escaping justice. Gallardo also spent some time in the Sinaloa governor's house as a guest, which Governor Antonio Toledo Caro has said that he was, quote, unaware of any outstanding arrest warrants against Felix Gallardo. So basically take that blatant lie as you will about the corruption in Mexico. Gallardo was finally arrested in Mexico on April 8, 1989, where he was charged by authorities in Mexico and the United States with kidnapping and murder of DEA agent Kiki Camarena, as well as racketeering, drug smuggling, and many other violent crimes. Felix Gallardo's arrest further exposed widespread corruption in Mexican politics and law enforcement, where as many as 90 police officers deserted their posts on the spot of his arrest. He was initially sent to 40 years in prison. After serving 28 years in 2017, a retrial sentenced him to an additional 37 years. While incarcerated, Felix Gallardo remained one of Mexico's major drug traffickers, maintaining his organization via mobile phone until 1993, where he was fully cut off in a maximum security prison. Felix Gallardo's arrest also led to the dismantling of the Guadalajara Cartel as key members of the Federation chose to withdraw and form their own cartels, relying on violence and to claim various territories and trafficking routes for themselves. The continuous disputes and conflict among cartel leaders would bring political, social, and military chaos and eventually lead to the Mexican drug war. The ensuing power vacuum in Mexico has seen ultra-violent groups such as CJNG carve out their own criminal organizations as a result of Gallardo's precedent, which was set in the 1980s. Additionally, Mexico has seen the bloodiest years during the presidency of AMLO, who in 2022 transferred Gallardo to house arrest, saying that he did not want anyone to be in jail. Did you know about Operation Leyenda before this video? What other aspect of the global war on drugs and cartels and crime would you like for me to cover? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.